Coming to you from an undisclosed location, somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains, I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to another show. We're here 7 days a week, do a show every single day. This one today, and let's go to camera 2, Jesus' crucifixion site closed for Holy Week, sparking end times fears. We're going to get into that. Of course, we had the only film on the planet that I'm aware of, Holy Fire, Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. We actually showed that in Colorado at a church gathering. I want to thank Ski Buddy Bob and Ruth. Keep Ruth in your prayers. She's recovering from knee surgery, but she's doing well. Keep our widows in prayer. We think of Carolyn Rankin just lost her husband, Jim, and of course, Gay Lee just lost her husband, Aaron. So there's a lot of people that are sick, that are struggling. Keep those people in prayer, folks, if you please. We'll get into all this. First, a word from our very trusted sponsor. We've all seen the headlines about those miracle weight loss shots, but the 2026 data is officially in. Folks, it's a wake-up call. A major analysis revealed that once people stopped the injections, they regained, drumroll please, an average of 60% of that weight within a year. Wow. Even worse, most of that gain is pure fat. However, the muscle they lost stays gone, never comes back, leaving them with a crashed metabolism and a body that's functionally older than when they started. Folks, all I can tell you is that GLP-1 Elevate, I think it's great. I've been using it for the last 30 days, and I'm seeing some results. So instead of using needles to override the system, it uses clinically studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to help my body naturally boost its own hunger control signals. I get that same fullness and fewer cravings, but without the scary side effects or the metabolic rebound. It supports my goals while protecting my muscles, so I can actually keep the results for good. Folks, check it out. Get off to 50% GLP-1 Elevate, 50% off GLP-1 Elevate. Please go to trimwithla.com. That's trimwithla.com. Every order includes a complete support bundle with free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't like it, folks, send the bottle back. You know, what have you got to lose? And free express shipping on subscriptions. Head to trimwithla.com, trimwithla.com, now to claim your 50% discount before it expires. So let me just walk through this. Jesus' crucifixion site closed. So this is debatable. There are people that, let's walk through it. People say, well, it's the Garden Tomb. But the Garden Tomb, and I've been to the Garden Tomb, by the way, very beautiful area, really well kept. There's a site like right next to it, which looks like the place of the skull. But as Mondo Gonzalez, our resident archaeologist here, stated in the film, that what people don't realize that whole mountainside, there's a whole array of tombs that the public doesn't get access to. So the French people or the French archaeologists sort of take charge of that. So while the Garden Tomb is really beautiful, it's a first century tomb or maybe after that, but we don't believe it has anything to do with the crucifixion site. Nor do I believe the Mount of Olives is the place of the crucifixion site. Here's why. In AD 70, when the Romans came in and destroyed Jerusalem, completely destroyed Jerusalem, right? Over 1 million people were slaughtered. The temple was burned down. And a few years after that, the Bar Kokhba revolt happened, about AD 130 to AD 135, somewhere in that window of time. So the Romans came in and they kicked everybody out of Jerusalem, and they erected on the Temple Mount, the Temple of Jupiter, and then on the temple or the site of the crucifixion, they erected a temple to the goddess Venus. Okay, why did they do that? Because they knew that was the crucifixion site. So no Jews are allowed there. Now, in the 4th century, Constantine becomes a Christian, the emperor of Rome. His mother becomes a Christian. She makes a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. She gets to Jerusalem, and everything's changed. Christianity now is tolerated throughout the Roman Empire. So she gets there and she asks the locals, where was the site? See that temple over there, the Temple of Venus? That's where the site was. Local knowledge always trumps everything. I've experienced it myself. Well, I'll give you a story. We were down in Peru. I'll digress here. I got my little I digress coffee mug, so this allows me to digress. We're down in Peru and we got wind of something, that there's a cave with a bunch of elongated skulls in it. This is in our film, The Secret Cosmic War. I think it's Watchers 6, Watchers 7, streaming at Marzulli.net. You can watch the film for $5, but I digress as usual. So we're running around and we can't find it. And there's this kid, probably 13, 14 years old, who lives there. And this is in a place called Ollantaytambo, down in Peru. And he goes, I think I know where it is. And he goes in and he talks to his mom or somebody else. And he leads us in the middle of, we're in the jungle, it's like crazy. And we're there. And sure enough, he finds the cave and we go into the cave. And sure enough, there's elongated skulls. All that is in the film, The Secret Cosmic War. Local knowledge, the reason why I bring that up, local knowledge knew where the cave was. We heard about it, but we didn't know where it was. We couldn't find it. We actually went to some other people. They didn't know where it was. But the kid who lived right around the corner from that, local knowledge. So let's go back to Helena, and she's there in Jerusalem. Where was all this? Where was the crucifixion site? Where was the burial? And remember, the crucifixion site is here and the burial is here. They're very close together, according to the Gospels. And everyone knew exactly where it was, Temple of Venus. So they begin to deconstruct the Temple of Venus, and lo and behold, they find the tomb. They find the tomb. Allegedly, pieces of the cross were still there. We don't know where that's true or not. Then they found the sepulcher, the place where he was laid. And then, this is where it gets interesting, the holy fire appears for the first time since the Bar Kokhba revolt of the Temple of Venus was built there. When they deconstructed the Temple of Venus over that site, they took all the material away. And that's where they built the first Church of the Holy Sepulcher. But listen to this, that the fire, according to one book I have by Sarkalitis, and you can Google that, Holy Fire, fascinating book. Peter allegedly saw it. Peter allegedly saw the fire, and it appears on the Saturday before Resurrection Sunday. It's done so for centuries, absolutely for centuries. And of course, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre has been created, torn down by the Muslims, recreated, and on it goes. But the Holy Fire has been there for centuries. Now, before you're just, I get it, skeptics. It's okay to be a skeptic, but think about this. What's Moses looking at when the bush burns but does not burn? Moses in the burning bush. What is that? He's looking at a bush that's burning but doesn't burn. Holy fire. What about the pillar of cloud that appears and guides the Israelites through the desert wandering, right, for 40 years? What's that? Pillar of fire. What is that? Holy fire. What about the flame, the pillar of fire that comes out of the Ark of the Covenant? Holy fire. What about the tongues of flame that appear over the apostles' head on the day of Pentecost? Holy fire. And that holy fire has appeared in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre for centuries. So look, I'm not into all this iconography. You can see it here. I mean, this is very ornate, but it's done out of a heart that wants to adorn the King, and I understand that. So, and as an evangelical, in some ways, we've thrown out the baby with the bathwater. So you go into a evangelical church, and it's just, maybe you have a dove like Calvary Chapels. You have a dove there. That's it. Nothing. So we've lost some of this. This, in my opinion, why this is very beautiful. All the lamps and the stonework. It's just amazing. It's a little over the top for me. Let's just go from there. So let's see what we have to say. Thank you, Gary Manners. The unprecedented closure of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre during Holy Week has sparked headlines that biblical prophecies regarding the Antichrist may be unfolding. Well, we don't know that. I mean, we know from Scripture that the Antichrist is going to appear on the scene, but not till that treaty, right, to rebuild the temple happens. So there's no treaty yet. Nobody's come and said you can read to the Jews, to the Israelis, you can rebuild the temple. That hasn't happened. So, until that happens, if we're still here and that happens, I don't think we will be, but, we don't know. Sounds like a bit of alarmism, but there's evidence posed for the claim. What is true is that for the first time in living memory, the doors of Christianity's most sacred site have been sealed indefinitely by military order, halting centuries-old Lenten traditions and Resurrection Sunday celebrations of Jerusalem. You'll notice that I never, ever, ever call Resurrection Sunday Easter, Ishtar. Not gonna go there. And I get it. People, you can call it whatever you want, but I don't. Happy Easter? No, no. Easter, Ishtar, Happy Resurrection Day, Happy Resurrection Sunday, because that's what it is. Constructed in the 4th century under Roman Emperor Constantine, the nearly 1700-year-old shrine is believed to mark the site of Jesus' crucifixion, burial, and resurrection, writes the Daily Mail. In a typical year, thousands of worshippers and tourists flock to the church during Holy Week, with attendance for the Holy Saturday Holy Fire ceremony often reaching up to 10,000. However, escalating regional warfare has dramatically altered the landscape of the Holy City. So I want to show you right here. I'm going to zoom in on this. Israeli authorities ordered the closure of the church on February 28th, 2026, citing security reasons and a heightened alert due to the ongoing conflict involving Israel and Iran. And you can throw in Israel and Hezbollah in the north, and Hezbollah is firing rockets. And now apparently, at the fog of war, the Houthis once again in Yemen have joined the fray. But let's see what happens. The decision came after fragments from intercepting Iranian ballistic missiles fell within a few hundred meters of the historic sanctuary on March 12th, injuring at least one person and reinforcing the security concerns of officials. Let's continue. A disruption of sacred traditions. The shutdown is part of a broader restriction on all major holy sites in the Old City, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That is where the Temple Mount was, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So when you walk onto the Temple Mount, you're up on a Temple now. Dome of the Rock is to your left. Al-Aqsa is below, all right? And the Western Wall. The closure has abruptly interrupted traditional Lenten liturgies and pilgrimages, including the walking of the Via Dolorosa, the route commemorating Christ's path to crucifixion for the first time in living memory. Church leaders in the Holy Land have described the situation as unprecedented in duration. Even during past wars and periods of tension, worship at the site continued in some form. While the church has closed briefly in the past for protests, 2018, or the pandemic, 2020, an indefinite closure due to regional warfare is a profound disruption. Sami El-Yosef, chief executive officer of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem, noted that church leaders are negotiating with police to allow limited Holy Week and Resurrection Day services for clergy only, similar to restrictions during COVID-19. So, and here we've got, there is also significant concern regarding the traditional Holy Fire ceremony for Orthodox Resurrection Sunday on April 12th, 2026, and its subsequent transport to Greece. The Church of the Holy Sepulcher is governed by the status quo, a 19th century Ottoman agreement that manages Jerusalem's holy places, providing services for Catholic, Greek Orthodox, Armenian Apostolic, Coptic, Syriac, Ethiopian Orthodox worshippers. On the same day that the church closure began, Muslim worshippers were also unable to take part in Eid prayers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, with thousands forced to pray outside the Old City as Israeli police barricaded all entrances. While the closure was a direct result of military conflict, some observers have pointed to the passages of the book of Revelation, what describe a period of upheaval and persecution in the final days, specifically where also their Lord was crucified. In Revelation 11, the text describes two prophetic witnesses who preach in the holy city before being killed by a powerful figure known as the beast. So the problem with this is they're taking, it's the book of Revelation, first of all, is not sequential. We get that. But there's no two witnesses. That hasn't happened yet. So, it's interesting, but you can't go there. End of story. In Revelation 11, the text describes two prophetic witnesses who preach in a holy city before being killed by a powerful figure known as the beast, often interpreted in Christian theology as the Antichrist. Of course, the Antichrist is the figure believed to be a powerful deceiver who will oppose Jesus and lead many astray before the end of the world. Let's continue. That's the shot of the interior of the Etikule. When we filmed there, we actually hired an Israeli film crew And because of the war that was going on, they had access to the Church of the Holy Sepulcher. There was no one there. It's a true story. There was nobody there. And in the film, the place is basically empty. There's a couple of people, but not like normally where there'd be thousands of people or at least hundreds of people in that milling around. Not there at all. And the way we did this, they had two iPhone 15s or whatever, the latest and greatest iPhone shooting in 4K. So both of these guys had an iPhone. One was filming, okay, filming in horizontal and 4K. The other one was on a Zoom meeting with me and my business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and co-director of the film, Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. So he's in Jerusalem at the Church of the Holy Sepulcher. It's around 6 o'clock. It's early in the morning here in the Santa Monica Mountains, and we're directing from thousands of miles away, which is really cool. Okay, and it was something like this. Wow, hold that shot. That's amazing. So you're looking at the edicule. This is the slab where Jesus was laid. This is the tomb area. And let's continue. The passages also speak of a city being trampled for a set period alongside widespread fear, destruction, and divine judgment. Though the scripture does not refer to any specific location or event, some see striking parallels in the disruption of worship at one of Christianity's most sacred sites, particularly during one of its holy weeks. Well, that's a stretch. And, cool heads need to prevail. So I think I'm going to stop it right there. Let me just see where we are. Yeah, okay. Let me just read this. Control of Christianity's holiest ground. The closure also raises urgent questions about control and access to the holiest ground in the Christian faith. The story of the Holy Sepulchre begins with politics. In 326 AD, Emperor Constantine's mother, we already talked about this, Helena, travels to Jerusalem on an imperial mission to locate the sites of Christ's passion. And what she identified became the axis of the Christian world, explains the Beruder. The church was destroyed by Fatimid Caliph he's leaving out a whole deal, leaving out a whole deal here, and which I've already done this just to go back and circle real quick and talk about it. They said, yeah, the church, the Temple of Venus is where the body was, the crucifixion site and the burial right there. So then what happens is the church was destroyed by Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim in 1009. That's a long time ago, over 1,000 years. An act that helped trigger the First Crusade. It was then rebuilt and substantially reconstructed by the Crusaders in the 12th century. When Saladin retook Jerusalem in 1187, he entrusted the keys of the church to two Muslim families of Jerusalem as neutral custodians, an arrangement that has endured for 8 centuries. The Ottoman Empire codified this arrangement in 1852, when the status quo decree incorporated it into the 1856 Treaty of Paris and the 1878 Treaty of Berlin, giving it the force of international law. The Vatican and Eastern churches are now appealing to the Israeli authorities to reopen the church, with the Vatican rejecting the security reasons claimed as a pretext to restrict Christian worship, especially as large gatherings for Israeli Jews continue elsewhere ahead of Passover. As part of the Vatican's call for a two-state solution, that's never going to happen, to halt the conflict in the Middle East, it supports a special status for the city of Jerusalem that transcends political divisions and ensures the preservation of its unique identity. The Holy See emphasizes the need to ensure the protection of the holy places and guarantee the unhindered right to access them and worship there. In a city where every stone carries history, every door holds meaning, the unprecedented sealing of the great bronze gates of the Holy Sepulchre leaves behind a lingering question about the future of access to the ancient sites that form the bedrock of the Christian faith. So I'm going to show you something here. So if you look at the pillars right here, I'm going to really blow this way up. Hopefully they'll allow me to do that. This is a matter of historical record. The church was shut down and the holy fire appeared anyway. And you can see it came up through the ground like a lightning burst and shattered this pillar here. That's what it's from. So we talk about this a little bit in the film. If you're interested, you can go to streaming.elimarzulli.net, streaming.elimarzulli.net. If you want to get the video, elimarzulli.com. Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. We're the only ministry and all film company in all of Christendom that we are aware of that has this film. I want to thank my business partner, Gil Zimmerman. Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. Folks, thanks so much for coming here. I'll be back again tomorrow. We are keeping our hands on the pulse of developments in the Middle East, in Jerusalem, in the Strait of Hormuz, and other places. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow.
Death comes for us all. Today, it came for Bob.
This is your life, Mr. Frisbee. You can call me Mr. O. Time does not exist here. We will go through every person you have ever wronged and everyone who has wronged you.
I can't forgive him!
Bob, come down here.
Aunt Mary?
You cannot enter heaven with hatred in your heart.
Take my hand, Bob. We'll go together.
Bob Frisbee must face every sin of his past and every wound carved into his life by others. Will he find forgiveness in his heart or surrender to the darkness? Find out in the debut novel by L.A. Marzulli, The Waiting Room.